A lot of people who have trouble reading actually have trouble hearing that internal dialogue. And I keep hammering this in because I feel like no one fucking talks about it. I, for 25 years of my life, did not have that narrative voice inside me that allowed me to read. Really think about it, because not having an internal monologue can be the reason why you get bored easily. And this is going to solve that problem. This is why I'm so confident that this video is going to work, dude. Okay, so I am probably the most qualified person on the planet to make this video, and I'm gonna explain some reasons why. But before I do, I wanna talk about something. Let me guess. You hate reading, but deep down, you wish you didn't. You imagine that you want to be the type of person that can casually say, oh, I just read the most fascinating thing in this book during some conversation that you might have. You wanna learn new things. You wanna feel yourself getting smarter and maybe even discover a new side of yourself, dare I say. But every time you go to pick up a book, it feels like a chore. The idea of reading feels like a chore, or worse, it feels pointless because you don't actually believe that you'll ever finish it. So it's not even something that you pursue to do. I get it, okay? I have been there. But here's the thing. The problem isn't you. It's not that you are lazy. It's not that you're not smart enough. It's that no one has ever taught you how to make reading work for you, okay? And today, I guarantee we are gonna fix that. I didn't actually pick up a book and enjoy reading until I was 26, 27 years old. Okay, part of that was due to having pretty severe ADHD, if you can't tell, in some of my videos. Part of that was due to having dyslexia, which is pretty bad. And part of that is also due to the fact that my father was illiterate, okay? Reading was just not a part of my family's vocabulary, all right? I wasn't raised in a culture of reading, so I didn't even know where to start. We were very much a movie family. But, as you get older, you're like, I should probably read. And I didn't even know where to begin. But I figured it out. I think I can help you figure it out. This is actually gonna be a step-by-step system that will make it easier than ever to read. You will have a proven strategy to crush 2 to 3 books a month, at least one a month, maybe even more, and actually enjoy the process. And if you stick around to the end, I'll share with you one rule about books that completely changed my life. And it's something I've been wanting to say on video for a long time. Let's get into it. Step number 1, we need to redefine reading a little bit because it's not what a lot of people think it is. And we're gonna do that first by addressing the absolutely stupid elephant in the room, the commonly held belief that audiobooks aren't books, or reading audiobooks is not the same. It's cheating in some way. And if you think that, you've been lied to, and science disagrees with you, because there was a study in 2019 in the Journal of Neuroscience that shows that the brain processes the spoken word pretty much the same as written text in nearly the exact same way. So whether you're flipping through pages or you're listening while you're driving, your brain engages the material on a similar level. This is huge because one of the biggest barriers to reading is of course time. And another is, and this is really the crux of this video, developing that internal monologue, right? That you have while you read. We're gonna get to that, but I had to address the idea of audiobooks because I absolutely hate the idea of people gatekeeping books by saying that audiobooks aren't reading. They are. Moving on. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna get Audible, and it's $15 a month. Just cancel one of your other streaming subscriptions. You got 5 of them. You don't need all of them. This is going to be important, and this step is non-negotiable. And also no, this whole video isn't just about audiobooks, all right? Just trust this process. So, $15 a month is going to get you Audible Premium Plus, which means you get 1 free credit a month, and you get access to the Audible membership library, which means infinite free books, pretty much, as long as they're in that catalog. And there's a ton of books, but no, you don't get to just go pick whatever book you're going to read. When making this video, I took a lot of care when creating a literary diet for you, so that way you can feel like a well-rounded reader very quickly. Okay, so to begin on Audible, we're going to be looking at reading some stuff that is good for our brains right off the bat so you can feel good about reading. Everybody wants to read to get smarter. And honestly, that should be at the top of your priority list because there's really nothing better than being that insufferable person who gets to say, I just read the most fascinating thing the other day. And I'm not even being sarcastic. It does feel great. And there's a very specific reason why, which is this. For some reason, when you tell people you learned something cool, they react totally differently when you say you read it in a book as opposed to online. Online could be anything. Who knows where you learned it or how accurate it is? People almost have this gut reaction to just think the digital world is fake, and it's getting more fake by the day. But when you say you read it in a book, it's somehow like the response is, oh, what book? And that's cool and it's interesting. It hits the ear differently because, simply put, it's a much more respectable way to learn information. Reading a book is like the opposite of regurgitating some headline you saw, which is what a ton of people do. So just by reading, you're getting way more of a 360-degree view of a topic, okay? So after you put your $15 into your Audible Plus membership, here's what you're gonna do. On Audible, you're gonna look up something called the Great Courses, and they have a few books that cost a credit. Just ignore those because they actually have a ton of books that do not. They are totally free. These books range from about 2 hours to like 20 hours plus, talking about everything from quantum mechanics to everyday life as a Roman gladiator. There's a little something for everybody, but start small. Choose a course that's like under 8 hours. That might sound like a lot, but when you listen to small chunks in like 20 to 30-minute sections at a time, it goes surprisingly fast. It's super manageable, just trust me. And I know what you're thinking. An audiobook on learning, that'll just make me fall asleep. And that's exactly right. That's why we're gonna call this book your sleep book, because the only time you're gonna listen to it is at night before bed, all right? There's a built-in custom timer in the Audible app on your phone. Eventually, you'll learn about how fast it takes you to fall asleep while listening to a book, and you will have that timer dialed in. And it fades out nice and calmly so it doesn't wake you up and you can just drift off to sleep, okay? Okay. So depending on how long it takes you to fall asleep, you'll have an extra 15 to 30 minutes of listening time a night. Assuming you do that like 5 nights a week, that's a 10-hour book every 20 days. You are then completing books. You are meeting your goal. Congratulations. And to be honest, it's almost impossible for my wife and I to not listen to a book while we fall asleep now. Sometimes we miss huge chunks of books, and that's okay, because you don't have to go back and check to see what you missed from the night before. This is just training. This is just warm up. These are just nighttime stories. And the interesting part is that science actually says that you will sleep better by falling asleep to an audiobook. So not only are you reading, not only are you retaining information, but hopefully you're sleeping a little bit better too. Next, this is the part where you're actually gonna buy a book, a physical copy. Now, a lot of people say just go down to your local bookstore and buy a book there because they think like ordering books on Amazon is like the dark deeds of degenerates, all right? But I'm not super judgy, bro. You do you. You buy one of these books however you want. But this is the point. I'm only giving you 3 options. You only have 3 options, and I have good reason, so bear with me. You are going to buy one of these 3 books and know you may not buy anything else. Trust the process and trust me. Obviously, don't trust yourself. You don't even read. I'm just kidding. But you will after this video. But before I tell you what these books are, I want you to know that they all have some very important key details in common. For starters, they're all relatively short. They're like 150 pages depending on the print size and publisher, which can sound like a lot, but it's not that much. The second thing they all have in common is that they're all considered to be some of the greatest books ever written by 3 of the greatest authors of all time. So you can't really go wrong. What I just said is objectively true. Number 3, they are all super easy reads. They don't wax poetic and flowery prose and drag on and blah, blah, blah. No, they are super easy reads. I promise you will absolutely crush these books, okay? And here are the books. Animal Farm by George Orwell, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, and The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Okay, I'm sure you've heard of these books, and for good reason. They are fantastic, and you're going to read one of them, and if you've already read one of them, read another one. You're going to pick one. You're going to buy it, and here's what you're going to do, because not only do I have a method to why you're going to choose one of these books, but I have a method as to how you're going to read it and get it done. Okay, now bear with me. Don't click off the video when I say this. You're going to want to. Don't do it. Just listen. You're going to leave this book on the back of the toilet. This is going to be your bathroom book, okay? You're going to read while you go potty. The bathroom time is precious time. You could be reading one of these amazing, world-renowned classics the way they were meant to be enjoyed. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. If you just read like 1 or so pages at a time, you will 100% finish this book in a month, maybe even a week, depending on how much you've had Chipotle. I don't know. This bathroom book is actually there for a super important reason, and it's to introduce you to the classics and kind of sharpen your preferences and teach you to appreciate what great writing actually sounds like on the page. This is super important because the most important thing when it comes to reading is trust. Books are big, and if you don't trust the author, trust the story, it's easy to look at a book and get intimidated and be like, I'm not even going to dip a toe. It's important that you're able to trust that the author is going to tell you something worth your time. But how are you supposed to analyze the merits of a writer if you don't know what good writing is? When you open that page one, you don't know kind of shit from Shinola. All right? What I mean by this is that good writing makes reading easy. It pulls you into the story and the characters, and it keeps you turning the page, and it says something about life and people and relationships and society and death and love. Great writing is like great sex. If you've never experienced it, that sucks. And you might be thinking like, okay, Taylor, that's cool, but what about the stuff that genuinely interests me? I really want to read, but how am I supposed to read that kind of stuff when I hate reading? Very good question. Step 3, let's talk about your quote-unquote spare time, which means different things to different people. This is while you're driving, doing dishes, working out, or folding laundry. These are like the perfect moments for an audiobook. Here's the strategy. Figure out what you actually love. What shows, movies, genres do you love? Do you love true crime thrillers? Do you love epic fantasies? Do you love heartfelt romances? Use this as your starting point. Think about what type of media you consume in a non-book format, all right? And then we're going to use that to cross over to books. Once you figure out what types of stories you actually like, you're just going to buy that in a book genre, okay? Back on Audible. This is where you'll use that monthly credit that you got to grab a book that you genuinely want to read. A bestseller, a self-help book, or even this like epic fantasy series that you could be really into, right? If you change your mind, listen, you can refund the book to Audible and get your credit back as long as you haven't read too much of it. Audible is pretty cool about that. So don't feel like you committing to a book is like this huge thing and you only have one credit. It's okay. You can return like 1 or 2 books a month, and it might stop you and limit you and be like, you already returned too many books. If you go on Amazon and just like open the Audible chat, they'll still refund it for you. So you're all good. It's not that big of a commitment. Don't get analysis paralysis. I know there's a lot of books that you can read. So this book that we're talking about is going to be your busy book. All right. And it's important to pick something that you really enjoy. It should be around 15 to 20 hours long to keep you busy and engaged over like a long period of time. This is where it really is different than a podcast. You should build up the expectation to want to go back to it. This is actually like kind of the magic of reading. When you really are excited for a movie, that's 2 hours of your life and the movie's over. With the book, that story and these characters like drag on and on and on, which that might sound monotonous, but it's cool because you get to experience the interest and the love of this story over longer periods of time. It's actually much more fulfilling than actually just like watching films. That's a hot take. But it's great because it turns like mundane tasks that you would usually procrastinate into opportunities to just like kind of pick up where you left off. If I have a good book that I keep going back to, I will look for errands to run. I will look for housework to jump back into my story. That's exactly why this is called the busy book. And I'm going to give you a pro tip on this one. Audible will give you a pretty beefy 3 to 5 minute preview to see if you like the book, but you really need to choose that time to see if you like the narrator, because a great narrator makes a huge difference when it comes to audiobooks. Okay, look for audiobooks read by professional voice actors or the authors themselves. Those are like always the best. If you pay attention to who's reading the book, you'll eventually start to acquire some of your favorite narrators on Audible, and you'll just listen to whatever they read because you like their voice. It somehow matches your own internal monologue, which I have found a lot of people that don't like reading haven't developed. Like for me, Stephen Fry.
It was clear from the oracle that he should do everything in his power to prevent any male of breeding age from getting close to her.
I love Stephen Fry. I will listen to anything that Stephen Fry reads. It's also kind of weird jumping into like a series or a trilogy when like each of the books is like narrated by someone different. That can get really, that sounds like not a big deal, but when things are like pronounced differently, like character names, it becomes very weird. So pay attention to who the narrator is. That's all I'm saying, okay? This is where the whole grand strategy of this video really starts to kick in, and here's why. This busy book, this book that you've spent time investing in, you're gonna get about halfway through, and then you're gonna stop listening to it. Think of the head start that you've given yourself with this busy book, all right? You've already read half of it, right? Because we're going to stop reading it at the 50% mark. You have an internal monologue established from a narrator that you've already vetted and like. You know the character names, you know the places, you can grasp the story and see what's going on, okay? A lot of people who have trouble reading actually have trouble hearing that internal dialogue. And I keep hammering this in because I feel like no one fucking talks about it. I, for 25 years of my life, did not have that narrative voice inside me that allowed me to read. And it's freaky, dude, because I had it when I write. How I write actually sounds nothing like how I talk. My internal narrative voice when I write is extremely developed because I've been writing so much. That didn't translate to reading at all for me. Okay, so when I say like this is a problem and you might need to think about it, really think about it, because not having an internal monologue can be the reason why you get bored easily, because those words aren't connecting for you to spin a yarn, to spin a web, to spin a story, okay? And this is going to solve that problem. This is why I'm so confident that this video is going to work, dude. Let's get back to something actionable. You are going to buy the physical copy of your busy book. And once you've bought it, you're going to take it everywhere. Doctor's appointments, coffee shops, lunch breaks. This book is your new best friend. Studies have shown that environmental cues, like leaving a book out where you can see it, dramatically increases the likelihood of you picking it up, which is exactly what we're going to do with this book. When you get back home, so does the book. Take it inside. Leave it somewhere where you walk by 100 times a day, so it will guilt you into picking it up. Don't you dare tuck it away. You are to leave it out and take it with you. If you work somewhere where you take lunches on site, bring the book. Bring it with you all the time. If all of that sounds too hard, do not worry. I have thought about you too, person who very much hates reading and does not see themselves as a reader at all, because you will now have the option of sitting down with the book, the physical copy, and listening to it and following along, all right? And you're following along with the narrator. And I know that might sound silly, but there's a whole lot of rationale behind this. And I don't think it's that deep. So by the time you get to this third step and you have the physical copy of your busy book and you have the book on Audible, dude, pop in your headphones, sit down with the book, and just follow along. You're going to do that for like 1 to 2 pages, and then it's going to kick in. It's going to be like a light going off, dude. And you're going to take out your headphones and you're actually going to start reading for the first time. You're going to read a chapter. You're going to start getting excited because that feeling that you got while listening to the audiobook starts to come back when you're physically reading it now, right? Sometimes you just need like those jumper cables to follow along with the narrator. And then you're like, aha, I'm excited again. And you're following along with it. Dude, I swear this works. Rather than just like talking about developing an internal monologue, I think there's one little trap or snare that gets laid out for a lot of new readers, and I want to talk about it here. Just because a book is popular doesn't mean it's good, and just because a book doesn't have a ton of readings doesn't mean it's bad. Personal choice in books is the same as anything else. Case in point. Let me see what I got here. Oh, it's Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. New York Times #1 bestseller. Whoa, everybody loves this book. Don't buy it, don't read it, don't be friends with anybody that read it and liked it. It's not good. A lot of people like this book, and they're objectively wrong. So, find what you love. Don't read as a status symbol. Read for yourself. If you force yourself to read a book just because it's famous or highly rated, you're setting yourself up for failure, or what readers call DNF. Did not finish. Where the Crawdads Sing is probably the only book that I've like actually put a dent in that I didn't like. Most books I love. I like even books I didn't think that I'd love. By the time I finish them, I do love them, because just the same way that like you hate the idea of going to the gym, you feel good after you leave. So even if you don't go in, you go into a book kind of like lukewarm on it, by the time you finish it, it might be something that you really enjoy just because you are accomplishing finishing a book. And that feeling of accomplishment is what this whole strategy is there to teach you. We have a little bit more to talk about, but I really want you to zero in on that. It's about completing these books and learning that feeling of accomplishment, and this thing that started and flowed and peaked and valleyed and then concluded over the course of a week or 2 or 3. It's kind of an amazing feeling, and I want you to have that feeling. So I tried to make this as easy as possible, okay? One more thing to talk about. It's hard to make time for reading unless what you're reading is something that you're enjoying more than literally everything else that you could be doing instead. But not only is it fun and cool, reading for like 10 minutes a day reduces stress by like 68% according to the University of Sussex, okay? That's more effective than yoga. That's more effective than music. That's more effective than going for a walk. Plus, like I said, Finishing a book gives you a sense of completion that feels good. Binge watching a show on Netflix makes you feel the opposite, and you know that. Okay, so by getting Audible off the rip, right, you are committing financially to your goal, right, which I'm a big believer in. Put up a little bit of dough for reaching your dream, because then you're that much more likely to commit to it. Then you're also surrounding yourself with books. You're changing your environment. It's like you're slowly letting yourself fall into the life of one who reads. According to a research study done by the National Endowment of the Arts, over half of Americans don't read a single book in a year. If you finish even one book in a year, you're ahead of the vast majority of people in terms of reading. I gave you a plan to crush 3 books a month, and most people don't read one a year. So even if you fail doing this video and you're only reading 1 a month, you are absolutely killing it, dude. So if you're gonna follow along with this video, do a little bit of Googling. There's usually promo codes floating everywhere online to get like the first month or 2 free on Audible. Do that. Let's go to the clip of the day.
There's a part of me that always feels like I'm manipulating somebody. Do you know what I'm talking about?
That's not a feeling.
So what is it? It's a thought?
It's a belief.
It's a belief.
Yeah. No. And there's a reason why you have it.
Like even if I'm just doing something nice, there's a part of me that's like, oh, you're...
Yeah, you think you're fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called the imposter syndrome.
Okay.
And it has to do with the fact that you couldn't be real as a kid. In some ways, you had to pretend. It's really hard to let go of that sense that I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
It's what you grew up with. So you could be kind to that part of yourself.
Okay.
The part that you could actually, because it's not a feeling, you know, Theo, it's a belief. And the beliefs can be, you don't argue with feelings, but beliefs you can challenge.
And that's exactly right. That's this video in a nutshell. Challenge the belief that you have that you're not a reader. You can love to read. You can believe that. That can be a feeling. That can be who you see yourself as. Okay? I love you guys. Thanks for watching the video as always. Leave me a comment down below, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.